Hello and welcome to Market Square. On this show, we bring you details of the global market with its downturns and impact on international trade. Stay tuned, we'll be back. Welcome back. So let's take a look at the petroleum sector of the economy. And Nigeria's petrol imports fell significantly in the first quarter of 2025, dropping to 1.76 trillion from the 3.81 trillion recorded in the same period in 2024, representing a difference of over 2 trillion. According to the latest foreign trade statistics report released by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, this represents a 54% year-on-year decline. The sharp fall also reflects a 47% reduction from the fourth quarter of 2024, when petrol imports stood at 3.3 trillion. The decline has been largely attributed to increased domestic supply from the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, which has been ramping up operations in the country. The refinery's growing contribution is beginning to displace foreign petrol suppliers and reduce Nigeria's long-standing dependence on imported refined fuel. A 5-year trend analysis shows a steady rise in petrol imports until 2024. In Q1 2020, petrol imports stood at 732 billion naira, rising to 1.29 trillion in Q1 2021, and more than doubling to 2.69 trillion in Q1 2022. Although the figures slightly dipped to 2.03 trillion in Q1 2023, it spiked to an all-time high of 3.81 trillion in Q1 2024. The sharp reversal in 2025 to 1.7 trillion marks a return to pre-2022 levels and signals a possible structural shift in the country's petroleum trade dynamics. The report also shows that petrol was Nigeria's most imported product from ECOWAS countries in Q1 2025, accounting for 89.18 billion naira or 44.51% of all imports from the region. It also represented 41.86% of Nigeria's total imports from West Africa and 11.63% of imports from the entire African continent. So even though there are gains in refining locally, these figures indicate that regional trade routes remain crucial in meeting domestic fuel demand, especially with fuel local sufficiency not yet achieved. Other notable petroleum-based imports from the ECOWAS region during the quarter included gas oil and petroleum bitumen, further highlighting the sector's influence on Nigeria's trade profile. Petrol also featured among the top 5 most important commodities nationwide, alongside gas, oil, crude petroleum oils, cane sugar for refining, and durum wheat. According to Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, it is in this report, they said the most traded commodities imported during the quarter were gas oil, motor spirits, ordinary petroleum oils, and oils obtained for bituminous minerals, crude, sugarcane meant for sugar refinery, and durum wheat, not in seeds. The declining input trend corresponds with the growing influence of the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, which is currently producing around 85% of its 650,000 barrels per day installed capacity. The refinery's entry has created greater competition in the downstream market, with petroleum retail prices in Lagos dropping to as low as 860 per litre in early 2025. However, operations at the facility have faced early challenges. In March, Dangote Refinery temporarily suspended local currency sales due to difficulty in sourcing foreign exchange, as the refinery purchases crude oil in dollars but receives payments in naira. And now to our main story for today. June 12 annually is Democracy Day in Nigeria, which was changed by the past administration of General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, as a mark of national honor for the 1993 June 12 elections, which according to accounts was won by late MKO Abiola. As usual, the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his speech at the National Assembly, emphasized that the economy of Nigeria will experience a turnaround through various strategies and plans. These plans, many have argued, are tall dreams, while some other quarters have said they can be achievable only when corruption does not exist in the system. With me on the show to discuss the economic plans of the president, as enumerated in his speech, and other issues in the economy is a public affairs analyst and businessman, Prince Francis Chidichilaka. Welcome to the show, Francis. So we listened to the president in his Democracy Day speech. So let's look at some of the issues emphasized. Now, what is your view about the economy as regards unemployment resulting in a growing crime rate?
Every successive government has always promised to create employment for the Nigerian teeming unemployed. They have always talked about creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. The whole essence of governance is that government has no business doing business. Governments should keep their hands off business, but rather make enabling laws that empowers the private sector to be able to engage meaningfully in business and by extension create employment. Yes, the rate of crime is rising, principally because of unemployment. But there is more to it. It's not just the fact that there's unemployment. It's the fact that there's multidimensional poverty. People have been pushed down, the ladder. People are hungry. People are starving, and people are finding it difficult to eat. And unfortunately, it leads to crime, because when somebody can't get food to eat, when a man has 5 children looking up to him and is unable to provide food for them, he is automatically forced into crime. So yes, we need to do something. The government needs to do something about unemployment. Create employment, create avenues, open up every channel so that people can get employed. It is so sad that we keep concentrating in one area. For instance, looking at the seaports, all the seaports that are viable are concentrated in Lagos, and that is why Lagos is getting overcrowded, and that's why everybody is running to Lagos looking for a job. But if you open up seaports in other states, do you know the amount of employment you will create? So government needs to think as if there is no box in order to solve the problem of unemployment. Now, talking about the growth for GDP by this government, it's honestly, sometimes a lot of us don't understand the magic this government wants to apply, because the government keeps saying, "Oh, investors are coming in, the business climate is getting better and all of." But we on the ground, we understand the fact that companies are closing down, businesses are not flourishing. The ones that are there are just managing to survive. But the only thing the government has done, which probably could grow the GDP, is the fact that they have, widened the tax net. So everything in Nigeria today is being taxed. The only thing that they have not been able to tax is the air we breathe. But every other thing is being taxed. Take for instance, you go to the bank to deposit money, you are taxed. You go to bank to withdraw your money, you are taxed. You go to ATM to withdraw money, you are taxed. You go to the POS to withdraw money, you are taxed. You try to recharge your phone, you are taxed. So everything is taxed. So when government says that they want to grow the GDP, they want to grow it not based on realities, not based on the fact that the Nigerian people are also growing with it. It's just growing because there seems to be more money coming in from tax.
The issue of promoting domestic manufacturing was also highlighted by the president. What are the fears and limitations?
Production is the only thing that can, move Nigeria forward. And how do you do that? It's by encouraging, and promoting domestic manufacturing. But the way things are, how do you encourage and promote it when people are being moved, companies are being moved to band A and band B and band C, when even your government has refused to stay on band A because they cannot afford to pay it? So the environment is not conducive for manufacturers to thrive. They're being taxed here and there. The cost of production is so high. So how do you want them to compete? How do you want them to compete with items that can be manufactured here and yet can be imported? So we need to bridge that gap. The truth of the matter is that the only thing that is cheap in Nigeria is labor. But other than that, everything that has to do with the government is expensive and going up on a daily basis. So Nigerians are not well, paid. The remuneration for Nigerian workers is zero, and government is not doing anything about it.
What do you think about his promise of creating 1 million new jobs?
Let me say this, which is one thing I found out with the political class. Talk is cheap. They believe that, oh, let us tell the people what they want to hear and we'll have a peace of mind. Mr. President has joined that free of politicians who just come on stage and say what they think the people want to hear. Talk is very cheap. Talking about 1 million jobs, how is he going to create them? Is it in an economy that is comatose, economy where insecurity is high, economy where accountability is zero, economy where corruption is holding sway? So how is he going to create them? We need to know, what is the miracle? Well, I mean, everybody, we would want that. We want people to get employed. We want the government to create the opportunities, but how is government going to create it? When even between the federal and state government, the 70,000 naira minimum wage is a problem to pay. So how are we going to create this employment? All these promises cannot work as long as, the parameters are not there. So the government needs to do the needful first, and that is to set an enabling environment to allow the private sector to take advantage of the industries where they belong to and create that employment. If government works hand in hand with the private sector by creating a conducive environment, yes, it is possible. But with the current reality, it is not possible.
How do you think electricity can affect the growth of the economy with all of these plans?
Everything that we do, every business in Nigeria depends on electricity. Call it the vulcanizer on the street, the carpenter, whatever you're doing in this country, you need electricity. And when electricity is expensive, you would expect that the cost of production would also be expensive. So whatever government wants to do to boost and grow the economy, I mean, look at it. Since the time of President Obasanjo till date, we've been battling between 5,000 to 6,000 megawatts. I mean, for a country of 200 million citizens, is that not insanity? When other countries are using more than that, check South Africa, even check the UK. So we're looking at 5,000, 6,000 megawatts. We're quarreling with it, we're fighting with it. We've not grown past that for how many years? Even with the sale of from NEPA and everything to discos, to jinkos and all of that, those people who bought it, what did they bring to the table? I keep asking that question. Because the infrastructures have not improved, nothing has improved. So if you're saying that the economy will grow without electricity, affordable electricity, the economy cannot grow. And we must be very honest and sincere to ourselves. The government needs to, re-strategize its agenda in terms of electricity. So much money has been invested in that sector. What has come out of it? Nothing. But today you find out that the ordinary Nigerians are made to pay for what the political class and the elite have taken advantage over the years. You cannot put a man who earns 70,000 naira in band A, the same band A that you're putting a man who lives in millions and billions. So there is a disparity. How do you want a man who is doing a carpentry work or vulcanizer or mechanic or spray painter, because he's working within the area where you have people that are supposed to be paying for band A, and you put him under band A, how do you want such business to survive? And how do you want the economy to grow? So we need to really, really be intentional about creating more stable electricity and affordable electricity for Nigerians so that businesses can continue to thrive.
So please tell us, in your view, how the negative exchange rates between the naira and other global currencies can be solved.
When Mr. President on the 29th of May 2023 made that infamous broadcast of two things: subsidy is gone, and free fall of the naira and dollar. We all knew things were going to get out of hand. We all knew that it was going to be a big problem. You cannot run economy without pegging, you know, your own currency to that of other countries' currencies. You don't allow a free fall, especially in a country where um, the political class have dollarized everything. Government awards contract in dollars. Politicians, when they're doing their campaigns and everything, they're looking for dollars. So everybody's looking for dollar for one thing or the other. When you have a dollarized economy, you need to think out of the box. I think it is high time, the CBN comes up and pegs the exchange rate. Because if you don't peg the exchange rate with what is happening in the Middle East today, as you know, Israel has taken the first shot on Iran. And if Iran retaliates and the thing escalates, the price of everything will go up. And then the dollar will also go up again. So government needs to be very, very proactive to say, how do we stem this? And the best way to stem it is to fix a rate and force people to do that, to follow that rate. When you fix a rate, everybody on the street selling dollars, arrest them and lock them up. Dollar is not a denominator. So it is an illegal transaction. So let us come back to that period when people used to hide to buy dollars. Maybe that will bring down, the exchange rate. But as long as it is open, free fall, demand and supply, I tell you that it will never, never be equal. Moreover, don't forget, this presidency promised us one naira to a dollar. But what do we have today? 1,005, 1,006, 1,007 naira to $1. Is it not madness? If you put up a policy that is not working, common sense dictates that you change that policy, you reject that policy. So it is, if government is really serious, the government will sit back and reject her policies. These were policies that were enacted when you didn't have a cabinet. Now that you have a cabinet, let them sit back and try to find a solution around it.
On insecurity, it has crippled agriculture in Nigeria, with major areas such as Benue, Plateau, and the Northeast generally. Please share your opinion on how this could get a solution towards boosting food security.
Food insecurity is a big problem that is staring us in the face. And this is as a result of the menace of Boko Haram, terrorists, all manner of people who are doing whatever they can to hold this nation down. Yes, insecurity is a big problem, and government is not doing enough in curbing insecurity. And I keep asking, 2 years down the line, a lot of Nigerians who were displaced from their ancestral homes, living in IDP camps, why has government not relocated them? Why is the killing in Benue and Plateau going unabated? What is going on? The only way to hold people to ransom, the only way to make people to surrender to whatever you want, is by foisting hunger on them. And I think there's a calculated attempt to ensure that food becomes scarce in this country. So government needs to curb insecurity. You see, I've always said this. You can't have a senator, a minister having 5, 6 police officers attached to him, private individuals, because they have the money, you have policemen attached to them, organizations, you have policemen attached to them. What is the role of the mobile police? Why not withdraw all these your officers that are attached to individuals and deploy them to where they are needed? Also, there is need to train and retrain our military, our entire security architecture. It needs to be rejigged. So government knows that, yes, the whole reason why you're having food insecurity is because of insecurity itself. So why don't you solve it? Why don't you declare a state of emergency on insecurity? Why don't you declare a state of emergency in those states that are troubled and see if the menace will continue. But no, government will not do that. Government was quick to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State because they felt, oh, it was a political issue and all of that was an issue of who will control the structure of political parties in the state. But the states where you have serious problem, government is closing her eyes to it. So for us to be able to address the issue of food insecurity, we need to address the issue of insecurity itself.
And now let's have your final thoughts on the economy.
The Nigerian economy would grow. The Nigerian economy has a bright future. But the truth is that the government don't seem to want it to grow. They don't seem to want it to thrive. Subsidy is gone. How many years down the line? 2 years? Where are the dividends? The president promised us when he announced that subsidy is gone, he said he was going to apply the savings to key infrastructural areas. Where are they? What are they using it for? Why are they not being accounted for? The only thing we hear is, oh, they're doing this, but we're not saying it. When a leader or when leadership does not trickle down to the lives and positively affect the lives of the people, then that leadership is lost. So we need a leadership that can, affect positively the lives of the Nigerian people. That is what we need. Not the kind of leadership that is lived on propaganda, on the walls of social media, on the walls of newspaper, on TV. No. We want a leadership that has a human face. A leadership that takes away hunger, that takes away starvation, that takes away unemployment, that guarantees the safety of lives and properties of Nigerians. That is what we want. And that is what leadership truly is.
Thanks so much for joining us on the show. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, Francis, thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And so that was Prince Francis Chidi Chilaka, public affairs analyst who gave his beat on the state of the economy as Nigeria celebrated June 12 for the year 2025. Let's take this break, and when we return, we look at the numbers. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, injected about $580 million into the local foreign exchange market in May to defend the naira. Data showed Nigeria's gross external reserves declined to 38.058 billion in May, showing the Apex Bank's aggressive intervention in the foreign exchange markets. The intervention supported the local currency's rally but raised concerns over long-term sustainability and the negative effect on reserves. To ensure the naira's stability and rising demand for dollars for foreign payments, the Apex Bank has contributed and has continued to sell forex to authorized dealer banks. According to ICO Capital Limited, in May 2025, the FX market traded with volatility but was relatively stable, supported by continued interventions and improved liquidity. Experts disclosed that in May, falling prices and continued FX demand pushed the naira to an intraday high of 1,614 naira to a dollar. But due to subsequent interventions, about $580 million, the FX market moderated. The company also increased Nigeria's naira ceiling to BAA2 and foreign ceiling to B2, acknowledging CBN's increased FX reserves and reduced fiscal pressures. The US greenback was sold at 1,575 naira and 1,610 naira per dollar in May. Analysts say, according to reports, the naira rose by 66 basic points, monthly appreciation to 586.15 per dollar in May, while the black market depreciated by 11 naira, closing the month at 1,617 naira per dollar. The development showed persistent street demand. Reports say the white demand spikes tested the naira. Enhanced market confidence and robust liquidity conditions kept the naira anchored. And that's where we call it a day on this episode of Market Square. Please feel free to share your views and our social media handles. Please also share, like, let's have your comments. Until next time, stay safe.